Welcome, my favorite federal employee. Today's video, we're going to be covering how much you need to be adding per pay period to get to your TSP goals for retirement. Now, it's not easy to delay gratification, but trust me, it's so worth it. When speaking to thousands of federal employees, it's one of the biggest regrets that I hear is that they wish they would have saved more. They wish they would have saved earlier and ultimately had more saved for retirement. I wish we could trade places. They often say money was tight, but I knew I should have been putting money away the whole time. I wish you could witness what I've witnessed over the last decade of coaching these retirees, and you would have the same amount of passion that I have to get families to save the right amount. That ability to create the habit to save the right amount is what sets apart the TSP millionaires. Retirees that are ready for retirement, that are excited about retirement, instead of the retirees that have anxiety about retirement and have to work longer and year after year when they wish they could retire earlier. Now, we're glad that you found our channel. My name is Andrew McNair, son of a CSRS employee, founder of SWAN Capital, Sleep Well at Night Capital, a total wealth management company, meaning that we have a CPA, an estate planning attorney, and financial planners all under one roof. We're also the founder of the Signet Real Estate Fund, which both companies serve retiring federal employees just like you. The reason your contribution to a TSP is a vital factor to your retirement is because over 5, 10, and 20 years, it can make the biggest difference if you'll be prepared for retirement and anxious to retire or sadly dreading retirement. Luckily, this is all within your control. There's plenty that we can focus on in the world that is outside of our control. The news makes us think that these things are in our control, like taxes, government spending, political elections, geopolitical events, inflation, interest rates, the stock market volatility, and the housing market, just to name a few. But none of that is in our control. We have nothing that we can do to control these outcomes. All we can control is ourselves, and that's hard enough of a job. We can control our personal economy, but we don't even have control over certain things like our first pension or Social Security completely. Now, you can control how long you work and maybe, just maybe, influence how many promotions and pay raises you get with hard work, ambition, and the reluctance or the lack thereof to move. Yet even those are hard to forecast and change. They can make moderate differences in your high 3 average and your readiness for retirement. But at the core, the main thing that you can change is your TSP outcome, what your TSP balance is over a 10, 20, or 30-year time frame. And how can you control that? By asking yourself these 4 questions. The biggest levers that you have at your disposal within your TSP. Number 1, how much can I invest? Number 2, what TSP allocations do I choose? 3, what tax types do I choose within my TSP? Do I contribute to my Roth TSP or my traditional TSP? And 4, how often do I rebalance my TSP? Now, we talk about all of those in various videos on our channel. And we oftentimes talk about them separately in very clear videos that are just about each of those. But I want to focus today's video mostly talking about number 1, how much should I save in my TSP? Now, everyone has an opinion, don't they? A guide that you need to read and follow, a rule of thumb that you should follow for you and your family. I can only share with you what I've witnessed watching federal employees retire successfully over the last decade, counseling thousands of federal retirees that I've seen be able to do it correctly, be able to retire on time and retire early. And there's 3 numbers that we want to talk about today. Number 1 is the floor, 10% of your gross income. I know it's controversial, but I believe that every federal employee should be able to save 10% of their income, no matter if they're starting in their career or later in their career. You might have to make some sacrifices, but 10% is the floor. Now, they're going to do 5%. Many times families want to count the 5% match, but the 5% match is not truly in your control, and it could change if the government changes their mind. That match can always be changed, but what can't be changed is you being diligent and frugal and save the right amount. The next number is 15%. I've seen 15% work, yet if 15% is not invested correctly, meaning it's poorly invested, you may struggle to retire early or on time according to your goals. Yet with 20%, I have never seen someone so far save 20% and not be able to brute force their financial success and be able to retire early. TSP, of course, is only one part of your retirement. Luckily, you do have FERS and you have Social Security, but remember, Social Security and FERS are not completely under control, like we talked about earlier. I mean, the cost of living adjustment, for example, is outside of your control. This is why you should focus on what is in your control, and that is making sure TSP is well funded, because you don't want to be at the mercy of the federal government. You're already under the mercy of the federal government and government shutdowns while you're working, but you don't want to be under their thumb when you retire. So please don't depend on Social Security heavily. FDR never designed it to be heavily dependent upon. FDR's design, Roosevelt wanted it to be just a supplement for your retirement when he came up with Social Security. So when the Social Security Act was established and enacted, it was to replace less than 40% of an average worker's retirement income. Yet, thankfully, for our affluent clients who we meet with on a regular basis, it's oftentimes maybe 20 or 30% of their standard of living. Now, I want to talk about what you can do to save more before we talk about those per pay period increases that you can save. So, first step that you need to take advantage of is calculating your spending plan. Like Stephen Covey once said, start with the end in mind. I'm shocked on how few families sit down with me and my financial advisors, and when we ask them, what is your spending plan number? What number do you need to have in retirement on a yearly or monthly basis to thrive, not survive? And I get so many deer in the headlight looks. I get so many surprised looks because they don't know how much income they need in retirement. So you must ask yourself, and do this as a family, what will change when we retire? Do you need 80% of your income or 105% of your income? Because you'll be traveling more and enjoying more of your life. Remember, I mean, my clients often want more income in retirement. See, it costs more to not sit behind a desk and instead travel the world, learn new hobbies, pursue passions, do those renovations on your home that you've always wanted to do, and leave a legacy to boot. So you must account for the positive, but also the negative circumstances like the cost of healthcare or the surprise costs of long-term care if you've ever taken care of an elderly loved one like an aunt or a parent. See, no one wants less income in retirement, but we settle for it. The second step is determining if we want to leave anything behind. So this is one of those fun questions I could ask in the first visit with families. And I love to see the reaction between different spouses. So if you're married, this is the question you and your family should sit down and ask one another. On a scale to 1 to 10, 10 being every breath I take, it is so important to leave money behind to my kids and my nieces and my nephews. And 1, I hope the last check bounces to those rascals. How important is it for you to leave money behind? Why is that an important question to determine how much you need to save in your TSP? Well, it's important because if you have a permission slip to spend down some of your principal or all of your principal before you pass away, then you don't have to save as much or leave merely, or you may have to be on the opposite spectrum. If you're trying to leave a lot, you might have to live off the interest only on your principal of your TSP. So this is a very important question. Everyone's desires can range so drastically. I've seen others that want their last dollar to bounce, and other spouses want to leave a legacy. So this is time to slow down, speak to your spouse, and ask them that question. Are you both on the same page? or do you believe different things? And how can you compromise as a couple? Third, you need to utilize step raises, promotions, cost of living adjustments, and net positive locality pay changes. When these occur, you need to use them to supercharge your savings rates to get back on track. I have watched families that were not saving enough for retirement, that were not going to make it to retirement in a timely fashion, supercharge their retirement by being intentional. Every time you get a pay raise, I want you to split the difference. Half for me, half for future me. If you get a 3% cost of living adjustment, you're probably already happy with what you have, and you can split the difference. And by doing that, you will catch up very quickly. The other thing I would encourage you to do is to remember that money doesn't operate well in a vacuum, meaning that if you don't give your money a job when you get a pay raise, oftentimes all those ads and those things that are trying to vie for your attention, are trying to vie for your dollars, and are trying to compete for your retirement, those ads that you're seeing on your phone, they will win the day. So here's what I would recommend. What I want you to do is pull up your iPhone, pull up your Android device, and set a calendar reminder that every 6 months on repeat, it encourages you to increase your TSP contribution by 1%. And before you know it, you'll be saving that 10, that 15, or 20% in no time. So how much should you be saving in your TSP? Now, what is the maximum that you can contribute to your TSP? If you're under the age of 50 at the time of this recording, you can contribute up to $23,000 a year, which is $903.85 per pay period. If you're over the age of 50, you can contribute up to $1,192 per pay period. Plus, if you're ages 60 to 63, you have higher catch-up contributions available to you where you can contribute up to $1,336.54. This is an amazing opportunity to supercharge your contributions, be able to catch up quicker. Now, don't forget to tell your younger Fed coworkers about this chart right here. You probably will want to screenshot this chart. So if we look at this chart together, I want you to see this really big impact of starting early. As you can see, at 10% in just 20 years, the interest earned on your principal, on your investment, has doubled the principal, meaning the principal that you've invested has been outshined by all of that compound interest. And so that's why it's imperative to put as much as you can as early as you can. Now again, if you have a federal coworker that is 20 years from retirement, tell them. But don't forget, if you still have 10 years from retirement, then don't get discouraged. You still have a solid decade, as you can see on this graph, to contribute and catch up. Retirees overestimate what they can invest in a year, but they underestimate what their savings can do over a decade. So let me share with you one more chart that I created. I really love this chart. It shows that if you increase your per pay period by $100, just $100, that's $2,600 a year. In a 10-year period, that's $46,000. In 20 years, it's $200,000. What about if you increase your per pay period contribution by $200? Look at the difference. In a 30-year period, that's $1.4 million. It's an incredible encouragement of just increasing it by just a little bit. What about $500? Look, in 10 years, that's $234,000. Again, over or almost $250,000 of difference. You can see the max contributions here at $904 under the age of 50, and you can see the difference of contributing the age over 50 contribution of $31,000 per year. How big of a difference this can mean for you and your family. So again, why is it so important to max fund your TSP? Well, the reason is if you're putting money into the C fund, as this chart shows, that compound interest flywheel starts turning, and it allows you to not only have significant growth that you can do some of the bucket list items in your retirement, but it also allows you to maximize other benefits, such as taking Social Security later because you have so much built up in your TSP to buy you time on your Social Security. So the takeaway is, no matter how close you are to retirement, be sure to save as much as you can. Every dollar adds up. The goal of course, is 20% of your gross income, but every dollar does add up, especially when leveraged by compound interest within your TSP. I hope this was super helpful. If you have federal retirement questions that we did not answer in this video, maybe it's still lingering even though you've checked out all of our other videos on the channel, please use the email in the description below. Send us an email with your question, and your question could be the genesis of our next video. If you have a friend or colleague that needs to see this video, be sure to share it with them. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our other videos. Also, be sure if you have your TSP allocations not rebalanced to give us a call. You can have a complimentary visit with me or one of our financial advisors, and they will help create the right mix for you and your family. Also, for anyone that asks, we produce a comprehensive federal retirement report for every federal retiree, and you can get that benefit report that covers questions like when should I take FEHB and when should I suspend it? When should I take and reduce my FEGLI? All of these questions are really big decisions, and you can get your retirement report by clicking the link below. And our office serves families all over the globe. Now, we have an office in Daphne, Alabama, and Pensacola, Florida, where we serve local retirees, but don't hesitate to sit down with us via a Teams meeting by clicking the link below or calling 1-800-848-8768. That's 1-800-848-8768. You can also email us at info@swan-capital.com. I hope you have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time.